Your business produces good work, sometimes excellent work, but it does not always produce the same work. When certain people are involved, the outcome is consistent, the client is confident, the standard is held. When other people are involved, or when the same people are having different kind of week, the outcome varies, not dramatically, but noticeably. And you can't always predict which it will be. That inconsistency is not a people problem, it is a motivation problem. It is not a management problem, it is a system problem. And specifically, it is the problem of a business that does not yet have systems in the structural sense of the word. In the last 3 videos, we covered the structural faults that keep founder-led businesses from scaling. Founder dependency, the absence of operational clarity, and the absence of operational visibility. That was Tier 3, the diagnosis. Tier 4 is the response. 6 building blocks, the specific structural investments that reduce founder dependency and build the operational foundation a scaling business requires. The first building block is a system, and before we can build one, we need to define precisely what one is, because the word is used so loosely in most business conversations that it has almost stopped meaning anything. Let me start with a system is not. A system is not a software tool. When most founders hear the word system, they think of platforms, a CRM system, a project management system, an accounting system. These are technologies and they are useful, but they are not systems in the structural sense. They are tools that support systems. A business can have every one of those platforms and still have no meaningful operational systems. And conversely, a business can have excellent operational systems using nothing more than a shared folder, a spreadsheet, and a clearly documented process. The reason this distinction matters is that founders who conflate systems with software end up solving the wrong problem. They buy a new platform hoping it will create consistency and find that the inconsistency persists because the platform did not address the structural cause. The structural cause is almost always the absence of the 4 components that a system actually requires. A system is a combination of people, processes, information, and standards, organized to produce a specific outcome reliably every time, regardless of who is doing the work. People, the right people in the right roles and with the right capability and authority to perform their part of the system. Not any people, the specific people the system requires with specific skills and context to execute their contribution reliably. Processes, the documented sequence of steps that, when followed, produces the outcome. Not the way one person does it, the way the business does it, repeatedly, teachably, consistent. A process is the operational heart of a system, and it is the component that most founder-led businesses are missing or have only in the founder's head. Information, the data, context, and reference material the process requires in order to be executed correctly. The client brief, the delivery spec, the quality criteria, the historical record. Without the right information at the right point in the process, the system cannot produce a consistent outcome because the decisions get made on incomplete or inconsistent data. Standards. The definition of what good looks like, the criteria against which the outcome is measured, not the founder's instinct about what is acceptable, a defined, communicable standard that others can apply independently. Without standards, the system produces output, but no one can reliably judge whether that output is right. Remove any one of these 4 components and the system becomes unreliable. The outcome starts depending on individual judgment, personal memory, or founder involvement, which is exactly the founder dependency the business is trying to move beyond. Here is a simple test for whether a system exists in your business structurally as opposed to informally. Question 1. Does the consistency of the outcome depend on which person is doing the work? If the answer is yes, if the output is better when a certain person or people are involved and variable with when others are, the system is person dependent rather than outcome dependent. The capability lives in individuals, not the system. Question 2. Does quality vary when you, the founder, are not closely involved? If the answer is yes, the system is founder dependent. It relies on the founder's judgment, attention, or presence to maintain the standard, which means it is a system in the informal sense, but not in the structural sense. Question 3. Could a capable new person, given the documented process and the right information, produce the same outcome to the same standard? If the answer is no, or if there is no documented process to give them, the system does not yet exist as a transferable business asset. Most founder-led businesses, when they apply this test honestly, find that most of their most important outcomes fail at least one of these questions. That is not a criticism, it is a diagnosis, and it tells you exactly where the system building work is. Here is what a business without structural system produces: quietly, persistently, and at cost. Inconsistent client outcomes, the same service delivered to a different standard depending on who delivers it, what information they had, and how much oversight was applied. Clients notice, some say no, some say so, and most do not. They simply do not come back. Rework. Delivery that has to be done again because the standard was not clear, the process was not followed correctly, or the information the person needed was not available. Rework is one of the most expensive invisible costs in a founder-led business, and it is almost always a systems problem, not a people problem. Founder involvement required to maintain quality. The founder steps back in, not because they want to, but because the system does not hold the standard without them. Every time the founder substitutes their judgment for a documented standard, the business becomes slightly more dependent rather than less. Slow and costly onboarding. New people who take months to reach useful output because there is no system to onboard them to. Only people to observe and learn from. The knowledge transfer is slow, incomplete, and inconsistent. Inability to delegate with confidence. The founder cannot hand over a function or a client relationship without significant anxiety because the system that should make the handover safe does not exist as a document or a reliable structure. In most founder-led businesses, systems were never designed. They emerged. The founder developed a way of doing things that worked. Over time, that way became the way. Communicated informally, learned by observation, maintained through the founder's involvement. The system exists, but it lives in people rather than in the business. It is person-held, not business-held. The work of building systems is not designing something new from scratch. It is taking what already works, the founder's reliable way of producing outcomes, and making it explicit, accessible, and independent of specific individuals. The four components already exist in working form. The work is formalizing it. Here is what building a system in the structural sense actually involves. First, identify the specific outcome the system is designed to produce, not a general capability, a specific definable outcome. A client onboarded to standard, a proposal produced consistently, a delivery completed to the agreed specification. The system starts with the outcome it is built to achieve. Second, document the process that reliably produces that outcome, not the way one person does it, the way the business does it, the sequence of steps in the right order that, when followed, produces the outcome consistently. This is often the founder's existing approach, written down and made transferable. Organize the information in the process requires the reference materials, the client data, the quality criteria, the historical context. Make it accessible at the right point in the right process so that the person executing it can do so correctly without having to ask the founder for it, as number 3. Fourth, Define the standards. Write down what good looks like, the criteria against which the outcome is judged, the threshold that confirms the process has been executed correctly. Make those standards visible and usable by anyone doing the work, not held in the founder's instinct. These 4 steps. The first time you do this for a critical business outcome, it takes focused effort. After that, it becomes the standard way the business builds its operational infrastructure, one system at a time. To summarize, a system is not software. It is a combination of people, processes, information, and standards organized to produce a specific outcome reliably, every time, regardless of who is doing the work. That is its structural definition. Most founder-led businesses have the raw material of systems, the founder's reliable way of producing outcomes, but it is a person held rather than business held. The work is making it explicit, accessible, and independent of specific individuals. When systems exist as structural business assets, quality is consistent, delegation becomes possible, onboarding is faster, and the business moves to a significant step closer to operating without requiring the founder in every single outcome. In the last few minutes, I have used the word process several times and deliberately left it undefined because process is the subject of video 11. If a system is the architecture, the combination of 4 components designed to produce a reliable outcome, a process is the most fundamental of those components. It is the documented sequence of steps that, when followed, makes the system work. Understanding the distinction between a system and a process is what lets you build both correctly. That is where we go next.